What is up, guys? Frosty Osty 0232 here for another Frosty Features. Today's feature is a new character coming to Marvel Strike Force. His name is Spider-Man Noir. So, this is actually a re-recording, so those of you in the live stream, I'm hitting this again. We had some internet issues, so hopefully we can hold out. What this is a comic book lore. Typically what I do for characters, new characters coming to Marvel Strike Force, it is what their story is in the comics, a little bit more background so you know more about the character you're playing. So in this situation, we have Spider-Man 2099 already on the channel. In this situation, in Spider-Man 2099, they're actually from alternate dimensions. So typically I do canon lore from Marvel 616. In this situation, we are actually in a different universe, so we will be kind of focused there. So, all that to say, let's get started. Spider-Man Noir. He is Peter Parker from Earth 90214. So this is a Marvel universe where essentially a lot of the 616 stuff, instead of it taking place in the 60s or the 90s, depending on who you ask, it takes place in 1943 during the rise of the Nazis and things like that. So yeah, so his first appearance was in Spider-Man Noir #1, 2008. So he's a relatively new character. Really came into the public eye with Into the Spider-Verse, the movie, and obviously everyone's looking forward to his return in the next one. Yeah. Powers and abilities. Organic webs. So there's actually very few spider people that use organic webs. Typically they use the web shooters. So Spider-Man Noir actually does have the organic webs coming out of his wrists. And he has the spider sense. The most important power for a spider person is spider sense. That kind of gives them, it's essentially a very slight look into the future that helps them dodge and avoid things. And something very unique to this iteration of Peter Parker is his pistols. So Spider-Man Noir famously uses two pistols as weapons. He has no compunction of killing people. Kind of his first thing. The Spider-Man Noir stories, it's joked in Into the Spider-Verse that it's grittier, but it actually is. There's a lot more death. He does a lot of killing, and everything's much more brutal. So it's, those pistols come into play quite a bit. Aliases, the Black Spider in Spider-Noir. Those are really the only two he goes by. Also, his comics, they're made in black and white for noir purposes, so that's why he's in all black. Affiliations, the Web Warriors, the Spider Army, and Amazing Arachnid. So pretty much any of the interdimensional spider teams he kind of joins in on. Spider Army, Web Warriors obviously being a team in the game, Web Warriors being interdimensional. They are interdimensional spider team that kind of fill in where Peter Parker's die in different dimensions. Spider Army being the kind of main team that fights the Inheritors, which are like dimension vampires that eat animal totems, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So one of the main reasons I like to do Frosty Features is because when we get our blog posts for new characters, they don't necessarily have they don't have a very clear well-rounded story about who that character is. So we're going to talk about animal totems in Marvel, and that actually has everything to do with Spider-Man Noir. So the Inheritors are really important. And the Amazing Arachnids, just another spider team. Background, New Yorker in 1932. I said 1942 earlier, or 1943. That was incorrect. 1932. So that's when things happened. And because in 1943, when I said it, the Nazis were already at their height. So 1932, during the rise of Nazism, you know, right in there with the Great Depression. Super important. Okay. Who died? Ben squared. So, Peter Parker, his typical backstory, Uncle Ben dies, and he's living with Aunt May. In this situation, Ben and May are protesters for workers' rights, and a crime boss known as the Goblin, bet you know who that is, a crime boss known as the Goblin is essentially running a lot of these jobs, running the city, so they don't like the protesters or whatever. So the Goblin's like, yeah, I'm kind of over y'all protesting my stuff. So he says, he's like, I'm gonna send a hitman and he's gonna kill the protesters. Kills Ben Parker, which that's what it says in the blog, but he actually sends the 1932 Spider-Man Noir version of Vulture. Vulture shows up and kills Ben Parker. So with the death of Ben Parker, Peter wants to get into investigative journalism and essentially do what he can to like unveil, things about the Goblin or whatever and try to take them down in a legitimate way. And so he goes in, and Ben Urich, the reporter that we know from like Daredevil, he works for the Daily Bugle. He's also obviously in some Spider-Man. He becomes sort of Peter's protege as far as the Daily Bugle is concerned, kind of shows him the ropes, what have you. And then Peter eventually gets tipped off. He's essentially working with Ben Urich, and he gets tipped off on this big thing that's about to go down for the Goblin. And it's supposed to go to Ben Urich, but Peter intercepts it, and Peter goes by himself, and he's like, I'm gonna come get the story, and I'm gonna be able to expose them and get vengeance for my uncle. And when he goes there, he there's a tussle, and he gets noticed or whatever, and there is a spider totem. So this totem specifically, so the totems, the way they work is they are a physical embodiment of the spirit of a essentially like spiritual gods or whatever of animals. So in this situation, totems can be people, totems can be objects. So in this situation, there's a spider totem that is an object. It's a little canister, and it breaks open, and all these spiders come out and start devouring all of the evil people in the room. They just start killing everybody, and Peter's like, oh man, that's not good, and he ends up getting bit, and in doing so, instead of being consumed, because all of these spiders are essentially the essence of, we're gonna say this incorrectly, the Mesopotamian god Urshkagul. So they're all like this embodiment of it, and Urshkagul finds that Peter does not have ill intent in his body, so they essentially bestow upon him the powers of Spider-Man. That's why he's Mystic, by the way, if anyone was wondering why that Mystic tag is there. His spider powers are actually from a god, so similar to like a Moon Knight. His powers come from a god. They aren't the standard. They aren't like how every other spider person gets their powers. His is actually Mystic based, so they actually hit that one on the nose. Usually the tags are a little questionable, but in this case, Mystic actually makes a lot of sense with him. But anyway, so he gets his spider powers, and he's starting to kind of figure them out. And then he goes to directly confront the Goblin, and in doing so, he runs into Ben Urich at the Goblins, and it turns out Ben is blackmailing the Goblin to fuel a heavy drug habit. So at that point, Peter pretty much gives up. He's like, this is dumb. My protege is kind of a monster, and there's a monster controlling a monster. This is awful. What am I gonna do? And he leaves, and lo and behold, come to find out, he goes to find that Ben Urich is dead in his apartment when he goes to confront him later. And he returns to the Daily Bugle and to go see Jonah Jameson, who is also dead. And he's like, all right, I got to do this. So he's like, I got to take down the Goblin. So that was the mentor with the twist, by the way, is that he's actually not that great of a guy. So he goes to take down the Goblin, and after that, he's like, well, I've done this. I've got these powers. Like, I might as well use them for good. I'm going to stay on that vigilante joint. Right? So the Mesopotamian goddess Urshkagul and the spider idol. So the spider idol is that spider totem I was talking about earlier. So it devoured all of the henchmen essentially around when that broke because of their dark hearts. And so Peter gets bitten. He is judged. He is pushed through, so he gets revived in the Black Cocoon. That Black Cocoon is really important because it actually shows up more than once. Ultimately, and this is canon but isn't canon. Every time Spider-Man Noir has died in the comics, Urshkagul brings him back to life. So he's not technically immortal by any definition, but every time he dies, he does come back to life, and that's sort of coincidental, so he's got sort of this immortal thing going for him. Alright, relationships, May Parker Ant. Ben Parker, uncle. Felicia Hardy, lover. For those of you who know Felicia Hardy, that is Black Cat in Marvel 616. In this version of Earth, however, she is a heroine named the White Widow, and she runs the Black Cat Club, which is a speakeasy that Peter Parker likes to hang out with, or hang out at. She also is actually, before her and Peter get together, she is Ben Urich's lover, until obviously he dies. Notable events: death / rebirth. So, when Spider-Man Noir dies, like I said before, what happens is he comes in contact with Urshkagul again, and Urshkagul, so far in the comics, has been like, okay, it's not your time to die, and he essentially respawns where he died in a black cocoon. So he first gets his powers, when he first gets his powers, he has that black cocoon, and what it seems like is that black cocoon is sort of symbolic of death, right? So Urshkagul, in canon, is the god of spiders and the queen of the underworld. But in actual Mesopotamian like mythos, or I don't know if it's still a current day religion, but the belief is that she is the goddess of the dead, right? So he keeps getting when he gets brought back to life. Excuse me. He's in this black cocoon, so I believe that's implying that he died first when getting his powers, but yeah. But when he dies a second time, most notably, is in a fight with the Inheritors. What you see there in the comic panel that is up there, that's Morlun. Morlun is the vampire that is the head of the Inheritors. So the Inheritors have a special taste. So that, like I said earlier, their main thing is to take out animal totems. So they have a special taste for spider people. So they go to different dimensions and they kill Peter Parkers and various versions that aren't Peter Parker, just because all of the spider sense and all of those spider powers all come from this like web of life, and each of the spider people, one way or the other, is a version of a spider totem. So the Inheritors track them down. So one of the reasons why the spider army in general kind of meets up is they get together because they're helping each other. They're essentially squatting up so that the Inheritors don't kill all the spider people. So what you're seeing in this comic, Morlun gets a hold of Spider-Man Noir, and obviously Spider-Man Noir, tries to bust a cap in him, but he ends up absorbing him and killing Peter Parker, and everyone's like, oh my god, Noir's dead, what are we gonna do? And then after they leave, the black cocoon appears because he talks to Urshkagul. So, and so far that's happened 3 times, the black cocoon situation. Yeah, up to this date. Cool. And then the Cicada Stone. So the Cicada Stone, that is a really big kind of story arc that happened within Spider-Man Noir. What happened was the Black Cat Club, where we talked about earlier about Felicia Hardy kind of running, they get attacked, and Spider-Man Noir ends up on the scene to investigate, and he finds one of the waitresses at the Black Cat Club, who is dead. Her name's Holly Babson. She's dead, and she is holding, in this picture you can see this kind of cool necklace. She's holding that in her hand. It is called the Cicada Stone. So upon investigation, Spider-Man Noir is like, okay, I need to go figure out what this is. We're going to go talk to this doctor, Huma Bergman, who may have some answers. And so he takes the Cicada Stone and goes to them, all to find out that this all has to do with the Macron crystal. So the Macron crystal is it's Shi'ar tech. It is a well, it's not tech. It's a crystal that predates time in the Marvel universe. It's come up a few times, and different versions of the crystal do different things as far as the cosmos. But ultimately, the Macron crystal is the Nexus universe. So in destroying the Macron crystal, we talk about power scaling a lot on Frosty Futures. The Macron crystal has a power scaling that is multiversal. In the event that you destroy the correct Macron crystal, because there's one in every single universe, if you destroy certain ones, it will end all of reality, right? So, he finds out that, he finds out that the Holly Babson that died and was holding the Cicada Stone was actually the living embodiment of Ershkigal, that spider goddess that gave him his powers, and that he needs to bring her back to life and stop her. So he's got to destroy the Macron crystal, all to find out that Huma Bergman, that chick that was helping him, actually was working with Nazis and is actually Inanna. Probably pronouncing that right, I apologize, but Inanna, who is the sister goddess to Ershkigal, and she was trying to, the whole setup was for her to gain control of the Macron crystal and to kill her sister. So Spider-Man Noir has to figure out how to get to the Macron crystal, and turns out the Cicada Stone is a key that kind of opens the door to the Macron crystal, but there's no way to destroy it until he realized that the actual key was being able to destroy both of them at the same time. So as you see in the panel, he's shooting through the Cicada Stone and the Macron crystal at the same time, destroys that crystal, and it kind of destroys the evil and brings back Holly Babson, but it doesn't end reality. So it only happens in certain universes. That's very important. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of fun stuff. There's more stuff on Spider-Man Noir if you want to check it out. A really fun character, and he's just now being explored. He's still relatively new in the kind of aspect of comics, so that's kind of cool. So next we're going to move on to power scaling. So the way we do power scaling here on Frosty Features, Marvel Strike Force doesn't really do power scaling, but I like to. So the way this works is at a multiversal level, as we talked about with the Macron crystal. They have the ability to end existence as you and everyone around you knows, and everyone next to you. So your dimension, dead. Dimensions all around you, dead. All of reality, across all realities, can be ended if you are at a universal power or multiversal power scale. Universal, you can end your reality, maybe skip over to another one and ruin that reality, right? Cosmic, you are a threat on a planetary level. You can destroy planetary bodies, and with some effort, maybe a cluster, maybe a galaxy or a solar system. So pretty strong. Nuclear means that you have the power of a nuclear bomb, destroying small cities all the way up to maybe a single planetary body with a lot of effort. Very powerful. City is the most common power level in Marvel. City, good examples being like a Spider-Man, like Daredevil. You have the power to take out a brick wall, maybe a building or a city block with enough effort and enough time. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian that Hela spawns in Marvel Strike Force. For the sake of argument, we're going to say that Greg is the strength of a human. And if I had a full box of super glue and a lot of grit and determination, theoretically, I could take Greg. All right. So in the case of Spider-Man Noir, like his many spider counterparts, Spider-Man Noir sits on that city level. Once again, their power level does not equal their effect on the world, right? So in dealing with the Macron crystal or hopping dimensions and fighting the inheritors and things like that, they have Spider-Man Noir has a greater effect than city level, but his actual personal powers, which are web spinning, spider sense, shooting pistols, that power, that puts him like solidly in that city level power level. So that's kind of where it's at. And that's it for Frosty Features Spider-Man Noir. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if there was something I missed that you really wanted to hear. If there's something I flat out got wrong. I had that 1940s bliff earlier, but that's okay. Also, as a reminder, I stream on Twitch every Sunday starting at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time at the link above. So come hang out with us there. We have a good time. That's where I do Frosty Features live. Great. Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all have a fantastic, fantastic day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cool.